Welcome to my best movies of 2017 video. This year flew by, I can't believe we're here already. But this is the video where I get to talk about the year in review and all of my favorite films that came out in all of 2017. So, let's get started. So 2017 was kind of an interesting year for film. There were a lot of movies that I think flew under people's radar. And we did have a lot of blockbusters that kind of divided a lot of people. So on this list you're going to see a wide variety of a lot of different kinds of films. These are all my personal picks for the best movies of the year. They have no bearing on box office or award season or any of that kind of stuff. These are just the films that I enjoyed the most out of all of 2017. There are two films that I did not see this year that I feel should be noted before I make the list. Call Me By Your Name, that movie that everyone on the face of the earth is talking about. It's not playing where I live for some reason, so I've really been wanting to see it, but I have no idea if it's going to come to my area, so unfortunately I couldn't see that in time for this video. Also, Phantom Thread, the new Paul Thomas Anderson, Daniel Day-Lewis collaboration. It's not coming where I live until January, so I'll try to review that when it comes out. So that's pretty much it for films that I haven't seen that I felt should be noted before I make the list. So let's get into it. I do have a lot of honorable mentions, and I probably have too many to tell you about each of them, so I'm just going to read them off for you right now. It, Dunkirk, The Shape of Water, The Big Sick, Your Name, 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri, Thor Ragnarok, All the Money in the World, and Get Out. All of which I thought were great films, but they just didn't quite make the cut for my top 10. Alright, so let's start the list. This is my number 10 pick. Split. Some people might consider this a December 2016 film, because that's when it came out in some film festivals. For me, it came out in January because that's when I saw it. But anyway, I would put this film on my list just because of James McAvoy's performance alone. He is incredible in this movie. The way he transformed himself into all these different personalities just blew my mind, and he had some moments that made my jaw drop. Anya Taylor-Joy gives another incredible performance in this movie. She's just knocking out hits lately. This movie's just a really good, contained, suspenseful thriller, and I think M. Night Shyamalan should make a lot more of these movies, because clearly this is where he excels. The film also looks incredible. M. Night Shyamalan did an amazing job shooting it, and it was such a good setup for the sequel that I can't wait to see. Mother. A lot of people love this movie, a lot of people hated it. It's definitely one of the most polarizing films that's come out this year. And I think we can all agree that however you felt about the quality of this film, Darren Aronofsky has crafted a movie that people will be talking about for years. I didn't see another movie all year that impacted me as much as Mother did. I just could not stop thinking about this movie once I left the theater, and I feel like every day after I saw it, I would just wake up with a new interpretation of this movie. It also has terrific performances from Javier Bardem and especially Jennifer Lawrence. I think this might be the best work I've ever seen from her. She feels so painfully vulnerable in this movie, and she sold that character really well. This is a movie that's designed to unsettle you, and clearly Darren Aronofsky had a vision that he really wanted to get out there. And I love that this movie has come out in 2017. You know, we don't get a lot of films nowadays that promotes discussion amongst film lovers. In a world where a lot of cheap, disposable comic book movies saturate the film market, I think this film was really refreshing. It's just nice to see a film that's as provocative as it is unsettling. And Mother is definitely one of the best films of the year, and if you haven't seen it, definitely go check it out because it is worth your time. Star Wars: The Last Jedi. A lot of people are going to be surprised that this film is so low on my list, but some people might be surprised that it's even on here because this is easily the most divisive Star Wars movie that we've ever had. Is it a perfect movie? No. It definitely has some flaws that I feel shouldn't be overlooked. But is it fun, and does it try new and ambitious things for this universe? Yes. This film takes risks. And a lot of the risks I really enjoyed seeing. I think even though it may not be perfect, Rian Johnson did an awesome job with this movie. It's one of the best looking films in the saga. I love the cinematography in this movie. The thing this movie needed to get right in order to be good was the characters. For me, that's the most important component of a Star Wars film. And it definitely did that. I think Mark Hamill has never been better as Luke Skywalker. We got to see a more grizzled, darker, and more intimate, conflicted Luke than we've ever seen before. And I loved his performance in this film. I was blown away by it. Daisy Ridley as Rey continues to be a terrific, strong female lead, and I love her dynamic with Luke Skywalker in this film, especially her dynamic with Kylo Ren, who I can't stress enough is one of the best characters in the entire saga. That's the thing that I really think is being overlooked in a lot of this movie's hate and backlash that it's getting, is that the characters are really great and they continue to be really strong leads. Star Wars: The Last Jedi also has some of the best action sequences I've ever seen in this saga. I love the way Rian Johnson shot all the action sequences. He used these epic wide shots that literally made my jaw drop. Star Wars: The Last Jedi was a movie that I had a ton of fun with. Wind River, in my opinion, is the most overlooked film of 2017. I was blown away by this movie. I thought it was a viscerally captivating experience of a film. It had a really great performance from Elizabeth Olsen. It was cool seeing her in this fish out of water scenario where she didn't really know what to do and she wasn't really prepared for what she was taking on. And Jeremy Renner, my God, this guy gave the best performance of his entire career. If anyone ever saw him as Hawkeye and thought that he's not a good actor, they really need to go watch this movie because his performance blew me away. It's also a really atmospheric movie. I felt so isolated and cold as I was watching this film, and no other film this year was able to make me feel that way. It's beautifully directed. I really enjoyed watching this mystery unfold, and I think that's one of the most cathartic endings that I've ever seen in a movie. Wind River is a very important movie that I think everyone should see at some point. In my opinion, Logan is the kind of film that transcends what a comic book movie can be. I love this movie, and we finally got to see the bloody, R-rated, violent Wolverine that fans have wanted for so long. And from an action standpoint, I definitely think this is the best directed movie in the X-Men universe. James Mangold did a really interesting thing with this movie, where he made it feel like a Western more than a superhero movie. But aside from all the action sequences, this was also a really touching father and daughter story that I really wasn't expecting. Laura was played marvelously by Daphne Keane, definitely one of the best child performances I've seen in a long time. And Hugh Jackman deserves an Oscar for this movie. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. He brought tears to my eyes as I was watching this movie. I'm devastated that this is his last film, but I do think it was a beautiful send-off for his character. Patrick Stewart also has never been better as Charles Xavier. Logan is the kind of movie that I never thought we were gonna get, but we did, and it delivered in every aspect I wanted it to. Being a huge fan of The Room, The Disaster Otis was everything I wanted it to be. I love this movie. It was so hilarious seeing the making of The Room on screen. But it was also a really touching film that focused on the relationship between Tommy Wiseau and Greg Sestero, which I wasn't expecting. The way the movie focused on their bond throughout the making of The Room was just really heartwarming, and I wasn't expecting it at all. I loved their dynamic together. James Franco is incredible as Tommy Wiseau. His dialogue is great, he delivers it all really well. But he also has some heartbreaking scenes in this movie, like the premiere, which is probably one of my favorite scenes of 2017. The Disaster Artist is an inspiring, heartfelt, hilarious tribute to The Room, and I definitely see myself watching this a lot more times in the future. Baby Driver was freaking awesome. Really great to see Edgar Wright gain some mainstream success with this film. He's one of my favorite directors of all time, and I think he succeeded in making what is the most entertaining film of the year. This is a film that never lets up. You never feel like you're given a chance to breathe because of how fast-paced it is. And it also has some of the best car chase sequences I have ever seen in my life. They are immaculately filmed. They're so much fun to watch. And it also has one of the coolest soundtracks of the year. I don't think I've ever seen a movie where the soundtrack simultaneously is telling the story. It was really cool how Edgar Wright crafted that. It also has really charismatic, fun performances from all these actors at the top of their game. Ansel Elgort was terrific in this film. I loved his chemistry with Lily James. All the rest of the cast is great. The film is so damn rewatchable just because of how much fun it is. But also, you pick up on a lot more subtleties that Edgar Wright includes in the film if you watch it more times. Baby Driver, in my opinion, is the most entertaining film of the year. I can watch it over and over again and not get bored by it. And with all this new success that Edgar Wright now has under his belt, I cannot wait to see what he does next. War for the Planet of the Apes absolutely floored me. I could not believe how good this movie was. I think it's honestly one of the best concluding chapters in a trilogy ever made. Andy Serkis's journey as Caesar has never been more compelling, and I love the way they concluded it with this film. This movie just went for the drama rather than the action, which I totally wasn't expecting. Also, I don't even have to say it at this point because it's been echoed by every other movie reviewer on the planet, but this film has the best motion capture work of all time. When you just look at these apes and you take into account all the detail and all the hard work that went into making them look so authentically real, it's unbelievable what they were able to accomplish with this movie. In my opinion, this is everything a modern day blockbuster should be. It told its own contained story. It didn't try to set up another franchise. It was so emotional, and it's such a bleak and dark movie, but it never comes off like it's trying too hard to be those things. It's also beautifully directed. I think Matt Reeves did an even better job with this film than he did the last one. The cinematography is breathtaking. The score is also really great. War for the Planet of the Apes is an authentically moving film that I personally think should set a new standard for what we see in modern day blockbusters. When I think of coming-of-age stories, Lady Bird is probably the best one I've ever seen. I think Greta Gerwig did an amazing job with this directorial debut. What I love about this movie is that it's so relatable. I've talked to a bunch of my friends who have seen this film, and they were all like, oh yeah, that was just like me in high school. And that's because of how real this movie feels. And a lot of that is due to Saoirse Ronan. This is an unforgettable performance. She's so drastically real in this film. And also, pretty much everyone else in this movie gave a terrific performance. Laurie Metcalf as her mother was amazing. Lucas Hedges also, oh my god, he had some scenes in this movie that really made me feel for him, and I was so torn apart by his character. The reason I think this is the best coming-of-age story I've ever seen is because it doesn't focus on something cheesy and forced like drama with boys and relationships or something. It focuses primarily on her relationship with her mother and how they're so dysfunctional together and that they're trying to help each other but they don't really know how to. It was a really emotional story, and it was also really funny. This film had such a nice balance between humor and drama. It's a film that I feel hit every emotion that I have, and it's really nice to see an unconventional coming-of-age story these days, and I cannot wait to see this movie again. You guys have probably already guessed what my #1 pick is, but anyway, there is one film this year that I think is the closest thing to cinematic perfection that I've seen in a very long time. There's one film that came out this year that I think 30 or 40 years from now we'll all be calling a modern-day classic. There's only one film this year that delivered on every possible thing I could want in a film, and this is my favorite film of 2017. When it comes to movies, Blade Runner 2049 is everything I could ever ask for. I was in a euphoric state watching this movie. This is another film where Denis Villeneuve continues to prove himself as one of the best directors of all time. And I know I've already talked about how great the cinematography is on this channel, but I can't talk about it enough because this is easily one of the best looking films of all time. Roger Deakins' work on this movie cannot be overlooked. Even besides the cinematography, this movie is a technical marvel. The production design, the sound design, the editing. Also, the performances are fantastic. Harrison Ford gives one of his best performances in recent memory. I think he was even better in this film than he was in The Force Awakens. And Ryan Gosling is so good as Officer K, watching this mystery unfold and how he had these conflicting emotions and he didn't know how to process them. It was just really enthralling. It's a very investigative film. We see Ryan Gosling uncovering this mystery from one clue to the next. And it never slows down. This movie is 2 hours and 42 minutes long. And I never was bored. I was never checking my watch to see how much time was left. And also, something that I've never talked about, this movie tells its own story. It doesn't try to set up any sequels or a whole franchise or anything. It has one story, one singular vision, and it tells it so well. It also has some terrifically well-directed action sequences. At this point, I'm convinced that there's nothing Denis Villeneuve can't do. I think it's criminal that this movie tanked so hard in the box office, and I think if you have not seen it, you definitely should, because it is my favorite film of 2017. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching my video. I really do appreciate it. Also, what were your favorite films of 2017? Let me know in the comments below. Let me know if you think some should have been on this list that weren't, or if there's something you don't agree with on my list, like this movie should have been higher or this movie should have been lower. Let me know in the comments. Let's talk about all this stuff. And I promise you, I will be doing a most anticipated movies of 2018 video sometime in January. That will happen. I will make time for that. I know last year I didn't do it, but this year I'm going to. And once again, thanks for sticking with me. I can't wait to review movies in a new year for you guys. Also, be sure to subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. And as always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.